Hi, this is Ken Lambert. I'm the VP and founder of the North American Association of Sales Engineers, or NAASE, as we might call it, because it's a long name. We are here. We actually are recording this on Monday, January 30th, for broadcasting on this Thursday, February 2nd. So we'll reference a couple things that might be a couple days off, but that's okay. This here is our the State of Sales Engineering address. Obviously, in the time frame of the State of the Union as is coming up, but I think it's good to take kind of a snapshot looking at what is going on for us. We're going to talk about what is going on with sales engineering. It's been a lot of items regarding industry developments over the last several months. A lot with software and tech, and just in general, even outside of software and tech. We'll talk about some of that as well, and kind of through the lens of this professional association, NAASE, which is now about 2.5 years old. So without further ado, I want to introduce our current president, Damian Hanna. Damian.
Hey, thanks, Ken. Hello, everybody. So, yeah, I have some quick thoughts I'd like to share with everyone, a little bit around our association, and then get into kind of the state of sales engineering in general. But Ken, like you said, founded this association to help those within the sales engineering field, technical sales field, or those that are looking to get into it, network and help with within their career, advance their careers. And so we've been growing as an organization. Our membership has been growing, but also those that are adding some benefits to our members have been increasing. And that's what we strive to do, is look for the right things to help folks out there. You'll see things that we announced this year coming up around, helping folks from a recruiting perspective, right? That's part of what the association does, try to help those in need and give them those resources that then they can take and move along with their own careers. So, and I think Ken might touch a little bit more on the association as we get through this, but our membership is full of a diverse set of folks across different industries. And a lot of folks are reaching out to each other, especially right now with a lot of the layoffs that are happening. So let's get into, what I think about that. Within sales engineering as a career, right, there are many different titles. So when I say sales engineering, just think about technical sales, but that could be a solutions architect, solutions engineer, pre-sales engineering. There's a lot of different terms, but when we're talking about this, we're talking about customer-facing roles that are supposed to help understand what the customer is looking for and then align a solution to that. So, recently over the last several months, there's been tons of layoffs, really in the high-tech industry. That's affected a lot of folks, sales engineering being a big part of that. With that said, I don't think it's as negative as it really sounds. It's not individual wise, it'll be something that's not fun for anyone that gets impacted with that. And there's a lot out there, a lot of people in my own network. However, what we see out there today is a lot of folks that are actually hiring for the role of sales engineer or solutions architect or solutions consultant. And some of these roles are within some of the high-tech companies, but also a lot of these roles are within other organizations, some of them being non-tech. And Ken can talk to you all day about what he does for a living, where there's a need for a technical sales engineer, if you will, that isn't necessarily selling a product or a piece of SaaS software. But in addition to that, what I really like to point out is the fact that there's a lot of roles that are available that I'm starting to see transition into more, let's call it a different type of sales engineer, if you will, right? So if we rewind maybe even 5 years, but maybe 5 to 10 years, the role of a sales engineer was really specific in, hey, we have this product or we have this one solution and we need to go sell it to a customer. You need to know everything you need to know about it technically so that you can answer all their questions and then we can move things forward. That's shifted and changed over the last several years into more of, where you think of a sales engineer being somebody that needs to understand the customer, their business, their industry. What are they doing? Asking them the right questions so they fully understand what their initiatives are, but then also what are the outcomes that the customer desires. At that point, then, what we can do from technical sales perspective is then align a proper solution to meet all of that, what they're trying to accomplish and what goals, what the outcomes are that they're expecting from that. And so part of that is to build relationships with customers. We can do that several ways. part of that is to maintain a cadence with customers, both from that relationship perspective, but also, hey, let me update you on some of the newer things that we're doing here at XYZ company. So it's not just about showing up and being that technical expert anymore. It's a little bit about putting on that sales hat, putting on a customer relationship hat, and building a rapport with those customers. Now, somebody's going to say, well, I don't have the luxury of doing that because I cover a large territory. So when you look at a startup company or you look at a specialist role that covers a great deal, yes, a little bit has to be done immediately and then you move on to the next one. But the more that you can really understand that customer need and then align the solution to that need versus just shoving a product that you think they should have down their throat or a solution, the more successful you're going to be in the career in the long run. And the customer is going to be happy at the end of the day. So if you think about just those little high level things around the shift of, hey, technical expert, which you still need to be to a point, but adding on some of those other skill sets, the professional soft skill sets, and thinking about the customer and putting yourself in the customer's shoes, what are the questions that they're going to have? What kind of issues may they run into that could block, this implementation or even the purchase? Those are the kind of things that sales engineering has kind of morphed into. Now, with that said, I will also say that I've seen a lot of positions hiring, a lot of companies hiring for folks that are involved with AI, machine learning, data science. So not necessarily as a data scientist, but somebody working with data, somebody working with big data. You can think of a lot of startup companies, but also some good companies that have been out there for a while that are really hiring a lot of people to go talk to customers about what are they doing and how can we do this in cloud and how can we add AI and ML in front of all this for you. So don't think of your typical SE as, you can always talk about the big tech companies like a Microsoft or Cisco. And I think when people hear those terms, they know exactly what those people know or what they're trying to pitch, but it's shifted. So whether it's Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Cisco, any of those companies, those high tech companies, they are shifting what their sales engineering teams do. In fact, their sales engineers probably aren't called sales engineers any longer. Other companies, within construction, within the AEC type of world, or even within media and entertainment, they're going to be potentially pitching a software solution to a customer in need, but also maybe an overall solution and strategy moving forward at different levels. So if you take a large company, and I'll kind of wrap this up, where a large company might have different types of sales engineers, where you have the account-based sales engineers that are going to do more of what I discussed, and then maybe some product specialists that are going to deep dive into a specific product or solution. And then you might have others that just are covering a larger territory, or even inside where they're on the phone and that's all they do. So it does vary. But if you want to move into more of that named account or enterprise selling space, in my opinion, at a startup, you really want to think about the customer's needs and you want to be there for the customer and have empathy for the customer. That's how you're going to build your business, and that's how you're going to be more successful. And then I think I'll wrap this up, Ken, with just don't be, for those that have lost their current roles to current organizations, my recommendation is keep learning things. Look out there, look for what you want to do next. There's tons of opportunities out there. It's hard to see them. It's hard to feel like it's going to work out, but it will. And you just have to keep at it. And I think the best thing to do is keep yourself fresh and keep learning new things. Take the opportunity, now that you're not doing your old role, to learn the things that you didn't have time to learn before and add that to your repertoire and to your resume, and think about the future and what you're going to do. So those are my tips. And, I don't think the sales engineering industry is as gloomy as it seems to be right now with all the layoffs. It's hard to get that just by looking, but if you really kind of pull the layers back, as Ken has, and Ken's going to talk to in a minute, you can see out there that it's striving. And over the next 5 to 10 years, I think it's going to be even more. It's going to grow across the globe. The role itself is going to shift a little bit, and the businesses that need sales engineering are going to shift a little bit. Those that may have not had it before are going to need or see the need, realize the need for sales engineers and their value. So Ken, I'll wrap that up and pass it back to you.
Thanks, Damian. That's great. Good overview, and we'll get back to you in a few minutes here. But yeah, I had a few thoughts, and we'll touch base on a couple of related things. And everyone's very everyone's always concerned with the job market, right? Doesn't matter if you are unemployed or employed. It's just something that, and everyone is interested in, even for your own sake of negotiations and whatnot, right? But we find, NAASE posts different things on LinkedIn almost every day or every other day anyways. And we just posted one today. Again, today is Monday, the 30th. And it was about, and I'm going to show you this chart here in a moment. Actually, I will pull it up, about sales engineer open listings on LinkedIn. So let us pull this up. There you go. You see that, Damian?
Yep, I can see
Very
it.
good. So just a simple line chart, nothing rocket science here, but it's just interesting. It's a snapshot at SE job listings on LinkedIn by over time. So we started looking at this back in August of 2021, and roughly we had about 90,000 job listings on LinkedIn, and it kind of stayed there for quite actually a long time. We didn't really look at it again for over a year afterwards. We didn't chart it anyways. So October of just this past year, not only a few months ago, but look what's happened since October of last year to the SE job listings, again, just on LinkedIn. And we realize there are duplicates on, LinkedIn, and, we realize that. And I do think some of it is that I think LinkedIn in general for the job market and for, recruiting and all that, I think it's gotten more popular, over the past, year and certainly several months. So I think some of this is just the pie of LinkedIn jobs has gotten larger. I think that's part of it, I feel. But either way, you look up here, this is just as of a few days ago, the end of January, you have almost 250,000 open job listings on LinkedIn for sales engineers in the United States.
And Ken, even if you look at that number, like you said,
Yeah.
And I myself, I've looked up some of these, and there are duplicates. Usually you see the duplicates because they're posted in various cities, right? So they might have one that says Houston, one that might says Boston and LA, and they're going to have those. So those posts come up. But even if you cut that number in half, that's a lot of open job postings within sales engineering.
Agreed. And so this is an important chart, but really more important, I think, is another thing that I look at, which we have written about in a few different blog articles over time, is this number versus how many sales engineers are there in the United States. So just to give you an idea, and how does that compare to other professions and other titles? And again, this is sort of us being pro sales engineer, obviously, and kind of where the market is and where the market's headed. But just kind of 30,000 foot view here. There's almost 250,000 SE job listings, according to this chart on LinkedIn. According to the Department of Labor, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, there's about 67,000 sales engineers in the United States, for whatever that's worth. So you got 67,000 people, and there's 250,000 openings right now, just as a note. Now that, again, probably has some inconsistencies and somewhat inaccurate, but those are the numbers. This is just one quick comparison, then I'll take the chart off. This is an electrical engineer. Okay, nothing to do really with a sales engineer or a solutions consultant, but just some other job title and profession. Electrical engineer, there are 166,000 job listings on LinkedIn for an electrical engineer. And in the United States, there are 303,000 electrical engineers. So you see the disparity between that, title and SEs in general. So it is, I feel, and I think that Damian as well, that, certainly SE as a position, I think it's still it's a good career, and I don't think that that's going anywhere or going to get worse off over the next few years. That's just my opinion, and certainly things can change. Just kind of looking at the economy in general, which is important whether you're in SaaS or not in SaaS, obviously. I think that there's been a lot of experts out there that have said that a lot of these tech companies that Damian mentioned, some of them, the larger ones anyways, may have hired a lot of people in the last year or two. I was just talking to someone recently that around the Boston area that got hired by a very large tech company, maybe the largest. And he was at a very substantial salary and compensation and all that. He was there for about 2.5 months, 3 months, and then just got laid off. So like what changed in 3 months, at that very large company? I mean, to again give someone that kind of compensation package and all that, and then 3 months later, it's over. So it is frustrating for that person, obviously, and it is a little crazy. But maybe people have said maybe there was a little too much hiring going on the last couple of years in some of these tech companies. That's not for me to say, but like Damian had mentioned, there's a lot of opportunities for SEs in maybe your non-traditional SE worlds, and that's the world that I live in and play in, more so in the manufacturing, industrial, construction, those kind of services and products that really are not software specific or software related. There's a lot of opportunities there. And one thing I do want to mention about the association before I forget, we are going to be putting out a new member portal very soon in the next few days. But regardless of that, even if you're not a member, you can go on our website, and I would suggest you take a look at our blog page. On our blog page, there's a lot of good information, good thought leadership on SE and where things are at and how to better yourself. I had written an article a few months ago on key traits and kind of advice on being a good and quality sales engineer. And one of the 5 or 6 pointers that I had there was, and this is what kind of going back to what Damian had said about understanding the market, but understanding what your customer or prospect, what their business needs are, but what their business really is, and how to try to help them from where you're sitting, obviously. But I always do this now, and I've always done this, is it sounds cynical, I guess, but trust, but verify everything. And I think that that's very important, because people say all kinds of things and they may claim all kinds of things, or your competitor may claim all kinds of things, but just because they say that doesn't mean that that's actually true. So I've got made a lot of headway over the years in actually doing the research and seeing, is that really correct? And there's a lot of stuff that is published and posted out there that is not correct. Once you dig into it, I mean, you can make the data and the statistics say what you want them to say in a lot of cases. So I've run into that. I just as a quick note, but as a general note, there's a lot of good information on our blog page. So I would definitely check that out, whether you're a seasoned SE or just kind of getting into the field. On that note, for me, that's really about it. But Damian, any last words on the state of sales engineering?
Yeah, just a couple things real quick, and just to kind of add on to what you finished with, is for those that are current members, feel free to, if you have an interest in compiling a blog post, right? Think about what you would like to say and what you want to put out there, and send it over to the info@sales-engineering email address. And it's one of those things where we're open to collaborate with all of you to put those out there. It doesn't have to just be me or Ken putting the blog posts out, mostly Ken, of course. So the one thing I think it's important to say is, we talked about where everything is, and I know now is a very difficult time for those that have lost their jobs within sales engineering, within technical sales in general. You mentioned a couple things that I want to point out. One is, it's not just sales engineering growing isn't just within SaaS. So SaaS is becoming the new norm for tech sales, right? So everything has become cloud-based, SaaS-based, subscription-based, ARR, all the terms that folks in the industry will hear. But there's plenty of other stuff that isn't really there yet. And those folks are a little bit behind, but they don't need to be. They don't need to be selling a cloud service yet. And what they're doing is finding that, hey, they have a need for a technical salesperson or a sales engineer. And you mentioned that a little bit. So, some people like to diversify their career and change career paths. And I think if you have an interest for doing something different, maybe you got into sales engineering and you morphed into the sales engineer that has to pitch SaaS-based solutions, and that's not for you, there's opportunity out there that you can go do something else and not be forced into what you don't like. But let me kind of go back to one more point before I forget is, sales engineering, when I got into it, I had no idea what it was. I didn't go to school for sales engineering. I was a consultant or systems engineer first, which was basically a consultant doing implementation and things like that. So I think if you fast forward to today, there are a lot of organizations within the university systems in the US that are starting to put things together, put chapters together that are specific to sales engineering. Now, we don't necessarily have degrees and programs quite yet within the US or within the Americas that are specific to the sales engineering role, right? But however, there are other call them education courses that you can sign up for that take you down that path. We have a lot of SE coaches on our page that do a lot of SE related coaching. We're going to be adding somebody soon that's actually doing some training around the fundamentals of sales engineering, what that means. So it's not just how to be technical, but what does it mean to be a sales engineer, things like that. And then lastly, Ken and I are seeing a lot more requests coming into the association from even at a high school level. We just had one, which I was blown away that they had a project in this high school. And one of the students selected sales engineering as her career choice to do her project on.
Right.
And they had reached out and asked for more information. And so Ken and I worked with them and did some, answered some questions, and they interviewed us. And I thought it was fantastic that at that level, at high school level, that they even knew the term. Again, it's not something that's being taught. So if that tells you anything, it's really still somewhat in its infancy as far as a career compared to electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, or any of those other fields that I think have been around a lot longer as a core career path. So keep your head up. If you're somebody that's not in the field yet looking to get into it, there's plenty of opportunity around for associations. Join our association, collaborate with other sales engineers, find out what it is, look at some training online, get some training. You don't have to be an expert in a product to start going down the path of sales engineers. Now, if you want to become a technical expert within a specific organization, then start following those technical trainings. But you need to be a good person that can handle the customer facing side, the sales side, as well as the technical side, and be comfortable with that.
No, that's great. Thank you for that, Damian. Great points. And at this point, I think we're gonna close up. But Damian did mention our email address, but our website is sales-engineering.org, the North American Association of Sales Engineers. Please check us out. And thank you very much. Bye-bye.
See ya.